watching this Kanye shit pour in.
I saw clips of it. Yeah, I didn't see that I only saw the Harriet Tubman thing, and then I just watched the abortion thing. And I'm
that
like,
shit's insane.
Damn, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the discourse it's causing too, because you got people like, yeah, this shit's hilarious, and rightfully so, and then you have people that are like, oh, dude, but like it's a mental breakdown. That's not funny. Like, you shouldn't be laughing at that. It's like a crazy dialectic playing out.
Yeah, it's it's always like the two options. It's like when the Silverstone kid got caught, and it's like, wait, is this ableist or is this sexist? It's like, damn, man, that's the two interpretations of this. Like, Jesus Christ, man, it's fucking bleak. Like,
yeah, and it's like, am I allowed to make fun of this and like laugh at the pungent pussy, or like, is that going to be like triggering for his victims? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, you can't laugh at it because it's ableist and it's sexist. So it's
what are we talking
We're talking about the Silverstone kid. We were like, because like
pungent in a strongly positive way.
Yeah, I just realized we never really talked about that. I don't know if that happened between episodes, but
I like how we're taking inventory of what to talk about, and it's like all like pungent feels like ancient history already.
Yo, that's what everything's so accelerated. It's fucking weird, man. It's like, I don't know when that was. If that was like a week ago or a month ago.
I feel like it was just a couple days ago. I could have been a week ago or.
Yo.
Yeah, I should ask my girlfriend because she'd probably know, because I was like laughing at her explaining what was happening, and she was like, I actively hate this. I was like, that's fair. Dude, what I need to start doing is I need to start like keeping a list of just like all of the topics.
Yeah, I keep blanking. It's like the deluge, man. I just like, I can't.
Too much.
My sense of time is all like warped. Like, I don't know, what just happened, if Corona just happened. Like, everything is all like.
Never happened, bro.
Yeah, everything's all swapped up. Yeah, my girl was the first one to mention the Silverstone thing, and just like the ableist thing. And I was just like, I couldn't register it. Seeing it was way more funny. Like, reading it was like way more funny. Like the italics, like the Bernie italics, and like.
And the way it's spaced.
That's the most insane part about it, is that he makes it look like a fucking campaign memo, dude.
No, that's yeah. I didn't register that at first, but then Doomer pointed out, was like, yo, this is like the most
the fucked up thing about it is that like this whole like industry that they work in and everything, like I saw that letter and it didn't even set off any alarm bells. Like, my brain was genuinely just like, oh no, that's normal, right? Because it's just like this way of sending out correspondences is just how all of these fucking snakes legitimize themselves.
Your brain's so messed up. You're just like, oh wow, he's getting out ahead of it. That's good.
right. Like I just
trying to frame the narrative.
So I'm at Slavoid T.
Alright, this is Shit Spouter 37.
This is Black.com pills.
This is the Fed Post.
That official media has ever been used to justify being a
horny
fucking
DMs.
sex. Yeah, no, exactly.
No, it was a matter of time that somebody would use the autism defense, because I feel like that's been floated out a couple times. Just like, well, the sex pesty shit is wild. Yeah, I've seen it on the edges. Just the sex pesty shit is wild. Just awkward advances. Just like, hey, I want to see you naked, or just something stupid, and then like, they don't even say that. They just say like really awkward.
Just like out of the pocket shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like they're not trying to be direct, but it's like obvious, and it's just there's no response the girl could have to that. It's just like weird.
It sucks because whenever I'm trying to not be super obvious and I'm like telling a girl that she has a malleable pussy that's pungent in a strongly positive way, I get annoyed when people get upset by that.
Well, yeah, his was avant-garde. His approach was breaking barriers, but like
there is some art to that, honestly.
Yeah, it's very French almost.
No, absolutely. I mean, but all these other clips of like these guys like and these screenshots, I'll just be like, this isn't that bad. Like, we talked about it in the chat, like with the girls in the chat. It's just like we say worse shit. The girls see worse shit than that. Like, that's light shit. Like, that's light. So it's just crazy that that's like viewed as like, oh my god, you're a predator. The fact that they say predator is like amazing.
The dick pic is, I think, what really threw it over the edge. Like, he was kind of teetering that line of like, this might just be autistic.
I almost spit on my beer. I didn't know I forgot he sent the dick pic.
Oh yeah, no, there's a dick pic for sure.
And I think it was in response to someone telling him that their dad didn't have coronavirus.
No, that's exactly it. It's like some of them, no, it was either that or it was like cancer. Or something.
Yeah, something bad.
Yes. Oh, your dad's. How's your dad doing? Is he okay? You're like, yeah, he's recovering.
Like,
oh,
yeah,
congrats.
No, and he says it like it's Reddit gold. He's like, oh well, celebrate with a fine dick pic, like, man.
He said, here's some dick for celebration.
Who talks like that?
Yeah, one girl brought that up in the chat when I was like making fun of him. Was like, no, actually, I think he's autistic, and that was like the evidence. Was like, yeah, maybe that might get you off in court, honestly.
He pled the retard defense.
No, I mean, it's just amazing that whole discourse became like, are you ableist or are you sexist? And like, which one? Pick one of these two.
Is that what
responses? Happened? Well, just because he took like well, I'm sure nobody really bought it, but like, I'm sure there were a bunch of psychos on the left who were like, this is very serious. Like, he's neurodivergent. Like, we.
Right. Well, I thought it was a clutch play for him to come out publicly and say that he was changing his name to Samantha. I thought he was finessing his way into that pretty definitely.
Yo, we never talked about whoa, I almost said something crazy problematic. The girl, Sammy, we forgot to talk about her. God damn, man.
I was gonna say mine was just skimming over the whole thing.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
no, I'm not. Yeah. I'm down to go at length for 2 hours on this. Yo, that shit.
I mean, shit. You live in the same city as this person, so I mean, like,
do I? In New York.
I don't give a fuck.
Oh, she's in New York, huh? Interesting.
I thought so. I maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like she's just like a. God, I feel so ridiculous talking like this, but yeah, she's like in the media world. So I mean, it's public figure. Yeah, I mean. If she's
probably a Jew,
right?
And,
exactly,
no,
exactly.
Just kidding. That.
Do you feel like skipping over it because it's like because it's dumb or because it's like third raily?
I mean, honestly, like both, probably. I mean, like I don't really have any like opinion. Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think of it? I don't really have any like opinion of it because all these people, like a lot of people I had noticed. No, okay, let me start over. The first I had ever even heard of Sam Pritchard was people just talking about how fucking annoying and a piece of shit Sam Pritchard is.
Yeah, so, like, of course.
I never even saw a bad take from him. And now that this person is now Samantha Pritchard, I never followed this person.
Yeah.
Still haven't. And so I'm not seeing anything. It's just like, oh man, like people are pissed. I saw Fred post about it and Fred was like, I'm losing my fucking mind. And I thought that was funny.
He's like, yeah, dude, you're always.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm like, oh, this is another reason to pace around your apartment with drinking and talking to yourself. But
that prediction tweet where that guy like called it like months ago is just like, socially isolated, like back against the wall. Yeah, that guy.
Oh my god.
I followed off that alone. I was like, I fuck with the Cassandra vibes. This is crazy. Like, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I
with the Sam thing, I just never dealt with her when she was previous to this. So I just reject the notion of having to care about her now. Like exactly. I don't know about. I never
absolutely
saw her shit or tweets or anything. Like, and now all of a sudden it's like something that I have to worry about and think about. And like now took over the discourse for like a couple of days, and it's like I don't know. It's frustrating.
Nah, absolutely no. This is the one thing I was thinking about was that I never talked about this motherfucker for like months and months. Like the entire time I've been on, I saw one take where she or at the time he was like saying it's funny that everybody on the left has to pretend that Hamilton's not good, and like I just saw that shit and I just like I knew this person was like a dweeb, so like that's just part of it, but something about that just like got under my skin because like I don't know
really
this
fast. Or sorry no go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I'm looking at the chat and I saw that Hobbs was thinking about hopping in, but
nice.
Keep up.
Nice. Yeah, I was asking whoever if they want to just hop on. But yeah, I mean I ripped them off like immediately, but yeah, I mean, hold on, let me send Hobbs the link.
Well, and this is yeah, and so like I guess like if I don't know, I mean like out of duty throwing a spicy Slav take out there, right? I guess I kind of resent the fact that this is just like an easy built-in button into internet culture to just be like, I do this and then you will pay attention to me. And like it comes with the added tag that like I will demand everyone everyone pay deference, and anyone that makes fun of me will be immediately blocked. It's just kind of like, all right, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say it.
Like I didn't pay attention to you before, and like
No, that's why I
don't
feel
want
weird.
to
I feel weird that I'm paying attention because that's literally it seems like it's part of the point of the whole thing, the whole like event. You know, if you take a cynical look at it. So it's kind of funny that I feel like I got suckered into talking about this motherfucker when I normally never would have. But I just find like it's just so on its face, just astonishing. Like I couldn't believe it when I saw it in the morning. I was like, "There's no fucking way!" Like, and most people didn't believe it. Most people thought it was a bit, but it's just like so blatantly. That's when I learned about the Clymer thing, like Clymer having that the Me Too allegations and then transitioning over. I did not know about that.
When you sent that, I actually had never seen that before either. That was really surprising.
Well, somebody sent that to me because I was like, wait, didn't Sam have these allegations? Like, this is kind of funny shit. Like, and then
Wait, did he though?
Yeah, there were a bunch of like sex. I mean, there was some bullshit ones where some girls were trying to entrap him, and there were some other ones where he was like,
I remember that.
yeah, oh shit, Hobbs is up. Hold up. Hey, what up, Hobbs?
Hey, what up, dude?
Hey, what's good, man? Could you turn up your mic a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. We needed the reserves. We had to pull in deep into the 30 dude's chest.
It's good to have someone who's been detoxing off the Twitter for a few days. Doesn't have the full brainworms going.
Absolutely, because we're all like fried, like losing track of what happened when.
I'm
like
plugged in, looking deep into Hotep, like, reading ridiculous shit.
What's good with you, Hobbs? How you been?
Doing good. I've been reading Marx. I've been reading Nietzsche. I've been reading Foucault. I read the Discipline and Punish book all the way through for the first time, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
I feel like I was gonna vomit reading the first like excerpt he gives of this. It's like a first-hand account of the last drawing and quartering for regicide in France. And it's just like they like take the dude, they like scar his hand and his back and his tits. They just like rip off his like skin, and then they pour sulfur and burn his hand holding like the knife that he tried to kill the king with.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then like they go through this whole process of like flogging him and then going to try and like draw and quarter him with the horses, but like they can't get him to tear apart with the horses.
Oh.
So like they're like hunting him while he's alive and stuff. Yeah, it's like it's really nasty.
You come at the king, you best not miss. That's a heavy.
It's the good old days. What was it? How was your luck? Like, what? I've never tried to read Foucault, and I've heard from a lot of people that he's like really pretty hard to penetrate.
Yeah, he's
fuck off.
I guess I should say
Sorry.
I should say that I'm reading obviously translation because I don't speak French, or I don't read French. And the translation has a lot of very weird sort of like clause structure where it's like nested and dependent clauses. It looks like that's what it's supposed to be based on like the commas and stuff. And then you like read through it and it's like, oh, there's not actually supposed to be a comma here. The comma's supposed to be where there isn't a comma, a few words away.
Just grammatical thing.
Oh, that's kind of a shame, actually.
Yeah, but just like you start reading, and once you get like through the first chapter, which is mostly excerpts from like from primary sources and a little bit of description and like discussion by him. Once you get into more of his discussion in like the second part of the book, it gets a lot clearer, I would say. Like you start to pick up on what he's trying to say, and it starts to just kind of flow almost like one continuous sentence. And there are a lot of like really long kind of running on sentences, but it starts to flow as like one continuous idea from that point forward.
Okay, and it's punishment and discipline, right? Or that's
Discipline and Punish. Yeah, The Birth of the Prison, the subtitle.
Is this where we're getting into Panopticon, that whole thing? Or set me through it, baby.
Yeah. So like I don't know. It's been kind of done to death, but the premise of the book is, just like sort of a history or a genealogy of like the Western punishment or like legal system from the Middle Ages and the end of the Middle Ages with the like French Revolution to modernity, and the gradual change from the sort of like Hobbesian, monarchs singular claim to the truth, in the way that like the ideal prince just dictates the law, and he dictates what punishments will come when, as and like the punishments, the tortures publicly and the executions publicly, and the reading of the sentences publicly and all that is slowly hidden away. The punishment itself becomes hidden away as the focal point of punishment goes from the individual's body as like a physical object to the soul of the prisoner, of the even the citizen under the police state, who the job of the disciplinary structures becomes explicitly to correct or to rehabilitate rather than to punish. And as a result, it becomes more diffuse, harder to like pinpoint where the power actually lies, and the like objective or the attempts at objectivity of the justice system according to like external standards. So like the way that they will magistrates or judges or juries will use expert witnesses to inform their decisions on whether someone is guilty or not guilty, and judges on how they'll sentence someone, takes away from, whereas when it was just the king's investigator and the king himself who would, or their equivalents at the lower level in the feudal system, but the state's prince and his agents who performed the investigation used to be the only ones who were involved with deciding the guilt of the accused. The courts were very closed and hidden off, secretive.
Right.
And as things become, more open in terms of the process of deciding guilt, it also means that the decision of guilt must become diffuse within the entirety of the culture. So that's where he analogizes, and not only analogy, but quite literally the architects who built prisons and jails and courthouses and stuff are the same people who built the schools and the hospitals, or designed the schools and the hospitals under this modern liberal framework of the disciplinary punishment system is for the rehabilitation of the person, to make them docile without needing to kill them, right? Whereas docility came from the fear and the ability of the king to have a show of force with public executions and such. Now it comes from what
right
people talk about as disciplinary subjects.
Yeah.
People discipline themselves.
Yeah, this is something we talked about before, like the whole soft coercion as opposed to just the straight boot on the neck. Just this is something that's way more. It has more longevity because it'll just it seems like there's a little bit of consent among society, so it's kind of it's less appalling on its face, and it kind of gets to live a little bit longer without pushback.
I kind of recall talking about this,
with Rev.
Exactly, on previous episodes, and I don't know, and maybe it's a grass is always greener sort of thing, but the honesty of a I don't know, a disciplinary force or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I didn't just read a fucking book on it, but the disciplinary force just being okay with just open and upfront displays of strength just seems more honest.
No, absolutely. No, that's
enviable.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why I like blatant racism as opposed to not to use a lib term, but crypto bigotry or crypto whatever. A lot of the liberal ways of being racist or bigoted are a lot more subtle and carefully worded, polished PR and all that. And in New York City, they could criticize the red states for racism and systemic racism when they've got the most segregated schools, but they say it nicer. They present it a lot nicer. So there's something that I personally have learned that where I'm I much prefer the person who just straight up racist, says the N-word, like, to the person who, you know, is way more savvy and careful and getting the, the favorable view on the things they say and the things they believe, but actually does things that are worse, tangibly worse.
I would like rather have the person who wants to kill me come at me with a knife than slowly poison me for 6 months.
Yeah. Exactly.
But this
The comment on longevity.
Exactly.
Talking about it in terms of longevity is the perfect way, and that's sort of how Foucault talks about it too. He said he mentions how the reformers, you know, with the invention of the guillotine and drop hanging, after the French Revolution, you know, a lot of these philosophers were saying, you know, the purpose is to make this humane, to make it, to eliminate the torturous, barbarity of it. The purpose, and they talked about it as though they were abolishing the punitive justice system as it existed before. And Foucault makes the point that it's not a abolishment of the system. What it is it's a reform in really the smallest degrees possible to achieve the greatest longevity possible.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, not to, I mean, we're talking about some real lit shit. I don't really read much, but as far as like Brave New World in 1984 that I've read, like one thing I found out recently was that they had known each other, Orwell and Huxley was actually a teacher to Orwell, and they had disagreements about whose outlook of authoritarian regimes in the future would actually be the longevity, the most long-standing model. And they had disagreements that Orwell thought his way would be how it would go in the long term, and Huxley was like writing a letter like, no, trust me, like in the end it'll be the way I described it. And the more I thought about it, the more it seems like that makes sense, because the Huxleyan way of getting people to consent to it and thinking that they want to be part of this entrapment and all that lasts a lot longer than just the brutal surveillance and just boot viscerally like on your neck every day. That's what Orwell was describing. And I mean, there's some of that in Orwell where they get him to, consent to the system in the end before they kill him. There's part of that too, but really it's just like everybody hates it. Everybody secretly hates being there. So as opposed to the Huxleyan view where there's less of that immediate, rejection, like visceral rejection of the way things are around them. So in terms of longevity, like that is the liberal way to just repackage these old things and keep them afloat for longer and make them more digestible. That's what woke capitalism is all that. It's just a way for this to not so easily be pulled apart because on its face, everybody knows it's fucked up,
Yeah, Orwell actually, I think he agreed with, I think he agreed with Huxley more than it might be apparent from the texts as they're published of his texts, because he wrote a preface to, I think it was Animal Farm, where he essentially says, don't be so smug about your ability to see, the injustice and the oppression within these, really blatant, obvious systems that I write about. I make them as hyperboles of how bad things can be, in plain form. But the more insidious thing is that, your same, and he's talking about the British, your same news and what would it be, press media,
right,
do the exact same functions as, in 1984, the Ministry of Truth, but also the party that he was, the Soviet party he was lampooning in Animal Farm in a much more efficient way, because you don't even notice that they're doing
exactly
it. While everybody in the societies, that are under such, heavy totalitarian or like authoritarian regimes, everybody knows what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. When it's especially like the same thing with the racism thing. Like when it's more blatant and obvious, like it's harder to digest. But when you do it the liberal way, the northern way, it's a lot more. It just goes on, and there's a lot less pushback. And I mean, in the long term, I think that China is going to be the Orwellian vision that sort of takes over here. But
well, this is kind of we had kind of talked about China when we had discussed like the kind of hard soft power thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, of just the kind of like a little more upfront.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Foucault, like he was the fella kind of, from what I've heard, kind of like frequently talks about like the way things were done in the past in kind of a positive, maybe kind of, the ways in which the past was better than the present. I've heard that point made.
Yeah, I think it's not.
What it is.
I think it's not so much that he has a positive vision of them or a it's just that he puts the current systems, the current power structures in context more properly than the sort of utopian end of history type views that have been building up. The narratives that these liberal values, these human rights values, this like liberal humanism is this perfect. People not necessarily perfect, but they say it's the best of the possible
right,
sort of
exactly.
moral legal frameworks.
Exactly.
And he says like merely neither one is really better than the other. The difference is just in what ways they
sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. You could actually say they're better or worse than the other in terms of how sustainable they are given the material conditions. But they're not morally better than each other. I would say that he's more honest about the positive aspects of the old justice system than most people are. Like people tend to ignore the fact that with public executions, with a huge mob there, like people could stop the execution if they wanted, and they often did. Not every time, not a majority of times, but often enough that it's of some significant historical record. Multiple cases of people like storming the
really?
scaffolds where the where the gallows were, or where somebody was to be like burned at the stake, going and like rushing the executioner. And oftentimes the reason they would do it is because the executioner failed to perform the execution properly. So like in the process of torturing, he's like tortured the condemned man too much or in the wrong way. And they view this, or they did view this, and often because there was a shortage of soldiers or police officers present to subdue the mob, their judgment that justice had been improperly dealt meant that the sentence of death or the sentence of further torture was nullified, and they would go rush the scaffolds, beat up or even kill the executioner, and free the condemned man, take him to like a church to have him absolved of his sins by a priest or a bishop, and send him on his way with new clothes and some money to go to either a different country or to a different city.
I've never read Foucault, but it definitely fits in line with what I've heard of End of History, where it definitely seems like it's not really about which is better or worse. It just seems like it's a survival thing at the end of the day, and this is the system that survives the longest so far. If it's just like a natural selection thing, this is the one that this neoliberal system is the one that's doing the best so far, and seems to be outpacing the other models of society. So that definitely makes sense just from like a survival point of view rather than a moral point of view.
I think that it's so important and helpful for people to be able to take that distance from these ideas, and kind of have that dispassionate view of them as tools to serve mankind and things like that. And that and it like made all the more important just like by the fact that like liberal democracy. Because all insert end of history argument here, right? Like it just like we can't. It insists upon itself so well, and so being able to have that kind of dispassionate, little distanced view, to be able to say, it reminds me of listening to like neo-monarchists talk or something, right? And I'm like, oh my god, like what is that? There's what I feel that is in my head, and then you listen to it, you're like, oh, you're just talking about like a corporate structure. This is just a thing in the world. This isn't right. I don't know. I think I'm kind of talking in reverse, just about like liberal idealism a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's part of that moralization binary that we always talk about. It's the best way to really understand things is that detached viewpoint.
Exactly, like that.
ISIS makes more sense. White supremacists make more sense. Like it proves futile to just be saying, oh, they're fucked up. It's like, yeah, okay, we get that, but everything that's going on now is fucked up, I'm sure, in retrospect in the future. So it's like it's almost useless framing. That point of view, it helps a lot.
This is like the same framing, to be fair. Like that'd be like the same kind of framing that like right wingers, make of people on the left that identify as communists, right?
Right.
It's like the smoke, but not the actual fire.
Right. Right. And what just occurred to me, for some reason it didn't click to me that your name is Hobbes. I've heard you mention like Hobbesian things, right? So I was talking to somebody the other day about the Rousseau Hobbesian, like the state of nature thing, and how that definitely informs, which way you're gonna funnel in modern political thinking. But I'm definitely of the Hobbesian view of like the state of nature that just is all just savages, which is very weird because I kind of have a libertarian bent, which wouldn't fit that. Would fit more of Rousseau's vision that everything is was already nice and orderly and civil. But how do you make of all that in terms of all that?
I mean, I have my name as Hobbes on stuff, partially because of like the comic book Calvin and Hobbes that I liked as a kid.
Right, which is also a reference to
that's also a reference to Thomas Hobbes.
Right.
I find Hobbes's justification of like the state as such, the state as a monopoly on legitimate use of force, to be really persuasive. It's been talked to death other places, but for anybody who isn't familiar, it's mostly, like you said, the state of nature of savagery or warfare. Warfare is the word that Hobbes uses in the Leviathan to describe the state of nature. What he means by warfare is both a conflict of material interest and a conflict of subjective knowledge. And this plays a bit in with Foucault's understanding of knowledge being necessarily tied to power or power to knowledge, in the way that the systems of knowledge are the systems of thought and science that produce the designation of guilt versus innocence in the legal system, and in the other disciplinary systems like the schools, the hospitals, or the asylums. The way in which any individual has no guarantee that another individual is not planning on personally murdering him means that he wants always to either be subduing the other person with his own force,
right,
or to be aligned with the material interests of a greater or mutually agreed upon force, which is the state, right? So for Hobbes, it's there are material conflicts. There's a scarcity of resources, and each person wants to have more resources to have greater security of life. They don't know what the other one is thinking, and the only way to guarantee that the other person or the other persons or other groups, I think it's actually more accurate to think about Hobbes in terms of tribal inner warfare or cooperation in terms of the advent of the state. But that's a bit esoteric. Their inability to determine the intentions of other people and to want to disincentivize other people from waging war on them means
right. This is all
everybody looks to everybody looks to a shared source of violence, which will produce judgments on what is legitimate and what is not, and has the ultimate right, or the ultimate ability, both materially through his levying of armies and his ability to command the whole power of the military or the police. In the Middle Ages, they were essentially united in that they were both viewed as extensions of the right to war, which the king alone had. But the main thing is just that I'm pro-state.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, that's kind of the logical conclusion. That's what I meant by I feel like it informs your politics today in terms of like, I think if you have that view that they're all hopeless savages that are doing this prisoner's dilemma shit 24/7, just about to cut each other's throats, then the only logical thing is to subdue them, which Makes sense. I mean, I'm sure of COH and Hobbs and Slava. I feel like you guys probably have more of an ML bent than I probably have more of an anarchist bent than you guys. But,
yeah, I was actually about to ask.
Yeah.
Hobbs, kind of what your thoughts are, since you're saying you're pro-state there. What you think on the withering away of the state? Is that something that you don't really subscribe to?
So like I'm agnostic on the reality of withering away of the state.
Sure.
But I certainly view that as a goal or a function like that will necessarily occur with the abolition of a class society. Like the state as being distinct from a non-state really comes from the creation of classes in society. So some popular anthropological descriptions of this have it arising with, and this is generally what I subscribe to, arising with agriculture, with food production. So with the advent of large-scale cultivation of food, rather than having to hunt and gather for foods, you ended up with surpluses. And if all it took was essentially a charismatic leader to gather a set of loyal people with through the promise of you will get more than the people who we subdue with our united force of violence. But you just have to listen to follow my plan. I know how to do this.
Right. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and then you end up with chieftains, which is the earliest form of the state you can imagine, where you have finally a ownership class that has all the soldiers, has the bows, has that they're able to have a surplus population that can be dedicated professional functionaries of violence. It actually a more contemporary way to think about this is something like a mafia. I know some of you guys like Sopranos, right?
Absolutely, 100.
Yeah, but like the made men and the guys who are in charge of like different boroughs and stuff. Those are those are your chieftains, yeah, and they have their families that they command,
right?
And what they're running is essentially a state that is it's internal to the nation state, but if there was no nation state already existing, then those same functions could be carried out and effectively be the only existing state in that geographic area, right? So you can have multiple systems which answer to a state, like a party functions as a sort of state hierarchical system with a monopoly on the use of not violence, but they have a monopoly on the use of political associative power, right? So like you can get kicked out of a party for violating their terms.
Is this at all similar to like the maybe take like Seattle local government versus Raz Simone's marauding?
Marauding.
Oh, is this when that guy showed up, the like SoundCloud rapper?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, at the Chop, as it's
Chop,
immortalized. Yeah, I was I mean, I don't actually know all the facts with that because there's just so much noise in the signal while I was going around on that. But I essentially predicted that either the nation state or the federal state of Seattle or of Washington was going to come in and break up the anarchist commune because they had no way to protect themselves, or that somebody else would come in and make a state. And that's pretty much what seemed to have happened. He was like 1 day in or 2 days in to their little project, and like then they started shooting those kids who were just like driving nearby. Like from what I saw, they didn't even go into the
the kids I believe very much did drive in Chop, to be fair.
Okay.
But yeah, they executed them or one of them or something.
Yeah.
It was a mess. And that to be fair also was like towards the end, but there were like
exactly.
there were like a lot of there was
a lot of shooting from what I understood, even if it wasn't not like shootings where somebody was injured or killed, but a lot of shots fired in essentially just like intimidation where they were like, "There's Fash coming. We have to scare off the Fash." Raz, pull out your AK or your Glock or whatever he had. And then there was that famous video where they like run up to the kid who's already dead, and they're like, "You want to get pistol whipped or something?"
So that's
the medics had to show up.
No. So that's the kid they executed.
Oh my god!
They bashed him and then shot him in the face.
Jesus.
Yeah.
For what? For trespassing or something?
Well, there was
they had guns or something, right? Or is that just not true?
So the thing about it, and to be fair, it's not like I'm the most. Well, I don't know. This is like kind of
Slav's
a serious
like
thing to be
the
talking.
ground reporter.
Yeah, he's the man on the ground.
I was literally the man on the.
I just don't know shit about it. I don't know shit about that whole story.
Basically, there had been like shots fired earlier in the night, and then there was like a convenience store robbery, and then these two teenage kids who like may or may not have had anything to do with the convenience store robbery drove into Chop, and at the center of Chop is this really big park, this really big public park with like a baseball field and all that, and they like drove around there, then were shot and killed. One of them did not die.
Wait, so what's the motive?
I don't know.
There's still no clear, from what I've seen, there's no clear consensus because
exactly.
Exactly.
And
like, at least with the police,
they were saying shooting, there was like a. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say with the police shooting, we would at least have a concentrated source of, the narrative, which has to be taken as the sort of historical fact of the matter until such time as there's other evidence that can be used to extrapolate other narratives. But there is no single narrative from what I understand, because their whole anarchist commune system.
Right.
Nobody was dedicated. Right. There is no dedicated source of knowledge. There's no hierarchy of knowledge and of history.
See this is interesting, because Chaz is sort of a good example of like a state of nature thing, even though it's not anything remotely near that, obviously, but relatively to what we got, that's a pretty good small experiment of it.
Experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of the gangs, like what you were describing of like the Italian mob, like a lot of their formation in Sicily, a lot of the Crips and the Bloods, a lot of that stuff is out of necessity, where there's sort of lawlessness, there's savagery, and there's like the state of nature basically, and there's some need and yearning for order to be put down. And
wasn't that one of the funny things going on in like Italy? I mean, not funny, like the whole thing was tragic, but in the beginning of all the COVID stuff. Like, wasn't like
the
mafia's helping?
Yeah, the mafia's helped. Yeah, because the mafia. Well, before the nation state of Italy came into its own in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it was just a feudal state like most of Europe, and it was hugely dominated by these private gangs of criminals who carried out the functions of a feudal state, asking for tribute and all that, in a really similar way, but rather than through having people work the land and give them tributes of bread, they wanted tributes of money from artisans, because Italy has a very or historically had a very heavy artisan and craftsman history, a very very heavy guilds tradesman history, as opposed to somewhere like Scotland, where it was really heavily just farming in the feudal era. But I'm sorry, that was a historical.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that. I end up going on historical tangents all the time.
No, it's tight. It's tight.
It's great.
We could use that. But I feel like a lot of that stuff. Well, a lot of the times when people say police or gangs, there's already this.
It's true.
And knowing, yeah, exactly. And the idea that the Crips and the Bloods are criminal, but not knowing that their origins were sort of in providing order for their neighborhoods.
Exactly.
So there's this idea that when you think of it that way, it's sort of this is the way of setting an order, and certain models of that get deemed as criminal because they're not, as close to capital.
As much power.
Right. Exactly. Because they're not as close to capital as they should be, and the ones that are closer, those gangs get termed as, the police state, or or what comes down as martial law. That is what gets more acceptable, and whatever deviations from whatever written law or whatever, or civility, that gets out. Tear gas tactics or whatever, all that shit gets out. Tear gas being against the Geneva Convention, all that shit goes out the window because they're closer to power. So this deviation of the law is more acceptable. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I feel like that is the state of nature, and I that would lead me to conclude that we need to to drop the fucking hammer, I should be a fucking tanky. But for some reason, I feel like that is not in the Foucault sense of like sustainability. I feel like that's not sustainable either in what we were talking about of consent.
I mean,
I feel like the best way. I feel like the best way is to get the proles or the people to. Altruism isn't a ivory tower, elite concept. You know what I mean? I guess some of that talk of like utopianism gets framed as like a privileged ivory tower thing. But honestly, altruism is in our DNA. That's part of humanity from the get-go, from the jump when we were primitive. Like as far as natural selection, it's still here. So it was useful for our survival. So I feel like a lot of that shit, that thinking, is still accessible, even on a if you're a pleb or you're not super educated on a lot of things. Like that stuff is still accessible, and that can be wielded and refocused.
It needs to be structured correctly.
Yeah. And I'm not even saying it needs to be education because I hate that talk. But either way, like I think there's a way to galvanize that in a way where we don't need to go the ML route or the totalitarian route. So that's probably why I have more of that bent. But what were you saying, Hobbs?
I've forgotten at this point. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I'd say that that conflating ML with totalitarian is a little bit incorrect.
Like the Marxist, from my understanding, the Marxist-Leninist, I'm not an ML, but my understanding of the Marxist-Leninist position is that, it's if you're like a Stalinist Marxist-Leninist, then it's I don't know, people use them interchangeably, but my understanding is that like Stalin's idiosyncrasies were not maintained after his tenure ended, and the Marxist-Leninist philosophy of governance did stay around for at least like through Khrushchev, but the Marxist-Leninists are like single party, single state. The state can expand to include other states which wish to join the federation, or the Union of Republics. But as opposed to having a multi-party parliamentary system, the parliament was within the party, so you had to be an ideological member of this party, ideally, right? But what it ended up being was it just produced essentially what we have in the U.S. is like almost like a Marxist-Leninist state of the single ideology is like capital or liberal capitalism, and everybody has to be a member of that party, of the liberal capitalist party. But there are different wings of that party which are call themselves like the left, or call themselves socialists, and call themselves the Democrats, or call themselves
like internal, external.
Yeah, like there's no actual without a fundamental difference in political, I guess in their political theory or their normative theories. The parties actually don't function as being different parties; they function as being the same part. Like if you had a socialist state where all you had was socialist parties, I think that would be I think that that would be fine for. Maybe not for like a purist Marxist-Leninist, but I think that would fulfill the Marxist-Leninist goal of like, we only have a socialist party. What you do is you break up that socialist party to provide the illusion of choice, and you can institute like liberal democratic sort of political systems to to make it less totalitarian to some degree, but also to mask the uniformity of your political ideologies that are allowed, of your political parties. In the way that we have in the U.S., where all of our political parties are really, really quite uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Like Greens, Democrats, Libertarians, Republicans are all really quite uniform in.
To be fair, I'll push back on that. Push back on that a little bit. The Green Party is a little bit different because no one takes it.
Yeah,
and no one knows what the fuck they want.
Yeah, and the Green Party is like younger, and it's more prone to this sort of like radical affectationalism, where they have people who run and they're like we need to stop capitalism because it's killing the planet. They have that type of shit, but I don't know. There's nobody advocating there's nobody actually advocating like a revolution or a change in the types of like ownership and property rights that constitute the capitalist liberal human rights regime. So
yeah, it's just like a reactionary begging for woke capitalism.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing I think is worth talking about is the thing that you're also an expert on, aside from lit and history, is the grooming discourse. I feel like that's worth delving into a little bit. I guess it's sparked because of Greenwald and all that shit.
Oh, what's going on with Glenn? Is there something with this?
I thought that's why you were first making that tweet about that, was because Greenwald had like been with his. They were like, "Oh, he's canceled."
I can't remember what order this shit happened.
Yeah, I know,
like,
dude. I know, dude. This shit is.
Oh
yeah, this shit is Russian. Yeah, it's just like a spinning wheel, but it's like it was. He got canceled because he dated his boyfriend when he was like 10 years younger, when he's 18. Yeah. So it's grooming, and then I thought that's why you made that grooming tweet or whatever. I thought,
right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it probably circled back to that.
I was actually more thinking on the lines of There was a specific tweet I saw. I can't remember if I shared it with you.
You were on OnlyFans and you were like, "I'm sick of this shit. I need to." I
saw some girl who was like, had just turned 18 or something, and like she announced on her Twitter, she was like, "I just turned 18, and here's my OnlyFans." And people were like, "You go, girl!" And I was like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "How long has she been on here for?" And I looked, and like the date when she joined Twitter was something like 3 years ago or like 4 years ago. So I was like, okay, so this is someone who's like from the age of 14 or 15.
Oof.
Right? Like on Twitter, and presumably if they like made this thing, they've been like, I assume that they've either like seen other people doing it and felt encouraged to do it as soon as possible. But also I can't remember what it was. I don't have a bookmark, so I can't go find it. But from what I recall, she was like, by popular demand, here it is, or some shit.
Here's my tits. Oh boy.
She was like, today is my 18th birthday, so I finally was able to register for it legally. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oof.
Like, this is somebody, like, that's the, and that was the like second half of that little tweet.
Yeah,
so,
that's like
what actually is grooming is like,
right.
People who are minors be pushed by adults, and in some cases other minors, I'm sure, to
the collective grooming of the left to these young girls, like I
don't even think it's like the left, because there's also just a bunch of like creepy libertarian apolitical dudes who are just like our boy,
the original maps,
Drew.
Yeah, thank you.
Like Drew tries to groom AOC.
True.
But that was more what I was thinking about, and I just chose like a 10-year age gap between two like moderately settled into their personalities adults. You know, I chose like 20 because I was like, okay, this is somebody who's developing into their like kind of long-term personality, but they're like they assuming they're like working class, like that they're not just like someone who's like coddled and like has only been in school, hasn't worked at all, like who's still essentially like a high schooler mentally. Note that that's like a
whoa, you sounding very privileged. You're internalizing misogyny right there. I don't know about all that.
No, I think it's the case for men and women alike, right? But
no, of course.
But like most people, by the time they're 20, have been working for at least 2, if not 3 or 4 years, at a job with people ranging between their own age and like retirement age. Most people are not, only interacting with people their own age until the age of 30, which seems to be what all of these like insane, super online, like autistic people on Twitter seem to think is normal. Like these like college kids. You know what I'm talking about. Like they're college kids who treat everything like it's the high school lunchroom or like even the middle school lunchroom. Where they have like their different little cliques. And,
Twitter is a lot like that.
Everybody's the same age as each other. They stay with the people in their grade. They don't talk with people who are older or younger than them.
Yeah, Twitter is a whole bunch of like high school bullshit, which is just repulsive. But
yeah, and it's all like 30 and 40-year-olds is the funniest.
Oh yeah, it's like a lot of.
That's why I call everybody an infant on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stunted growth shit going on, and just like.
And you shouldn't worry about them grooming people, because like if it's a 30-year-old that's on Twitter, like they're already basically just the same mindset as an 18-year-old anyway. So like fuck it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Slav, I know
brains already. So it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I know, Slav. I know you have like some strong opinions about the sex work thing, because like I have like my girl was like, she used to be rad femme leaning, and we had a lot of disagreements. Like I'm very sex.
Wait. What type of rad femme? Are we talking TERF or are we talking rad femme?
Yeah, that's why her and CRK are together.
That's
the only rad femme you can get with.
That's where we had overlap. We're like, oh, you see it too.
The official stance of Fed Post is that
you guys actually met. You guys met in the replies to Sam Pritchard's.
Yeah, that's the real intersectionality. It's like, hey, do you hate trans people too? Me too. Like, nice. Like,
the Fed Post stance on radical feminists is the only acceptable ones are TERFs.
Right. It's like the Sig Heil my nigga tweet where it's like, yo, this is bad. This is bad.
The establishment really fears.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is bad on both sides, but hey, at least there's some solidarity against the true menace, you know?
Yeah, they're finding common ground. They're breaching through.
That's 100%. It's all about solidarity
against the Jewish transgenders. I'm totally joking in case anybody's listening and doesn't know that I'm joking. I'm completely joking. But
I'm drafting up an apology letter for you right now.
Do you guys hear Code Switch? Do you guys hear Code Switch when he has to like apologize to the HR people?
Who does? Who?
I heard that's you, dude. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, look. Usually when I joke about one group, it's fine. But I hit two soft targets at once. Like that's hot. I hit 2 third rails at once. So I know the numbers.
Kid gloves.
No, the number. Yeah, that's bad. I gotta walk that down a little bit. But I know. She would talk. We would talk about that stuff a lot. And like, I'm very sex positive because I'm a high T guy. I'm very sex positive. I've done the readings. I'm with the third wave feminists. And like,
you're a Paglia guy. That's what you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally down, but I just look at it through a materialist lens. Like if they shouldn't, no one should be coerced into doing it. And a lot of this stuff that you're talking about and like the trending stuff is like things are just materially getting worse. And there's a lot of people who just get pushed to commodify themselves even more than usual because what else are you going to do? I know, COH and me kind of have like a similar outlook on it, but I know Slav has some feelings about that too, right? Like you were posting about that shit as well, right?
I mean, like, well, yeah, first of all, like, well, to be fair, I don't really have like much of a different stance than you guys, but yeah, I mean, like right out of the gate, that we're talking about it now, when like there is no form of this that wouldn't have an unacceptable level of coercion in it,
right,
unless we just like completely universalized access to just all basic human needs.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like if you're working, then like you can't justify it. Honestly, beyond that, I forget what my.
No, I think you're right because it's kind of in line with the anarchist utopian thing.
And also just like the fact that we're talking about that when it's just so distant. It's just so distant.
Right.
It makes it so much worse in my mind. And then beyond that, like all of the things that fill in the gaps there, like I guess there are, there's some degenerate shit in there, right? There's some degenerate shit in there, and I think that a lot of it is misled. I think that's like what you're doing a lot of the walking between like the reality of what we have right now and like why I'm talking about this like really remote thing is just like, oh, you just have like unhealthy ideas, narratives, thoughts about sex in a lot of ways. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I think it goes back to a lot of the anarchist, like utopian visions that we talk about, where it's like abolishing police or abolishing prisons, borders, like things that I'm in favor of, and like pro sex work or all that. But obviously, I'm very aware of how far removed the reality is from that, and that's why my girlfriend brings that up a lot. Where it's like that's cool, but like you got to understand a lot of these people that are like pro sex work are very like upfront about it, are people who are privileged and are not facing that coercion.
Yeah,
and that's who dominates the discourse. And when you put it like that, well, yes, I guess I could be like caught up in the abstract where it's like, well, in the ideal, this is fine with me. I don't really care. But yeah, given the way things currently are laid out, you'd be remiss to not acknowledge the fact that like shit is fucked up right now. In the current iteration, it's completely fucked up, and to deny that is
and it also like it does now that we're talking about it, it does kind of bring to mind it does seem kind of like a good example of the critique of like feminism of that kind of that like you are liberated by your ability to just join the workforce and be as miserable as everyone else in your life now. Which was always a bourgeois liberation because the working class women always had to be working beforehand. Yeah, exactly. And like, now it's just becoming like kind of warped in like a funhouse mirror, and it's just even more stated.
There's a good. I'm trying to find it in David Harvey's A Brief History of Neoliberalism. There's a good passage about this sort of like the degradation of the working women's status to the point where the only thing that they're able to commodify and market effectively the thing that they're best able to commodify and market in rather than like working in the regular labor market is to sell their sexuality. But I did find somewhat related to what we were just talking about this excerpt about the bourgeois sort of diversity politics, which is I can't remember which chapter this is. Chapter 2, I think. Chapter 2. Oh shoot, where'd it go? I just had it. Oh shit, I fucked up with my.
No, it's all good. We're censoring everything you said, anyways. We're redacting everything you said.
Here it is. The ruling elites moved often fractiously to support the opening up of the cultural field to all manner of diverse cosmopolitan interests. The narcissistic exploration of self, sexuality, and identity became the leitmotif of the bourgeois urban culture. Artistic freedom and artistic license, promoted by the city's powerful cultural institutions, led, in effect, to the neoliberalization of culture. And this is with regards to the New York City art scene in the post-war period.
Yeah, especially like a lot of combos with Slav. Like I have a very I guess it would be postmodern point of view on a lot of cultural things. So
postmodernism is actually cool.
Yeah. I mean, I am very aware that a lot of privilege lends itself. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, we get the nuance that whatever validity there is to that, there's a lot of privilege, material privilege that lends itself towards that thinking more than not, right? So which affects all these cultural issues. But especially that thing we were talking about in the chat that Doomer was talking about, like the just sexualization in general, just like Tinder, just like the gig economy of Tinder, like everything's so transient and just like, everything you do is just like a quick fix, like everything about you. What's your brand? People saying like, oh, this is my brand. Like, just doing like fleeting hookups and like, not that I'm against that, but just like there's a transient emptiness that very much fits well into the whole machine and making everyone into a cog that's rootless. And, it's useful to understand all these things that are happening and the desecration of the family, as Wright points out, and like that shit as a product of like, of the neoliberal like capitalist order. It's like, it's useful to see it in that framework. But I value the in the abstract. Like I still think that's a good thing, but we're not there yet, obviously, like everything else.
Yeah, I don't know. Like
I have a little bit. Yeah, families are neat, but I think that it's important to note that like the structure of families changes necessarily with the changing material.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bog fucking posted some shit where like somebody was like, oh, we should be talking about, he retweeted some quote tweeted, somebody was like, yeah, we need to be talking about the extended family, not the nuclear family. It's just like, he made fun of it too, but like, it's just mad funny. Like they're moving the goalposts. Like people can't even hold hands with a girl and they're like talking about an extended family. Like, yeah, I mean, like, it's just like, it seems like a funny debate to have.
Yeah. Shoot, who was I talking with? Oh, I think I was talking with one of the guys that I know CRK doesn't like.
That's everybody. Dude. Yeah,
but we were having a bit of a back and forth about the family, and we both agree that the form of the family, and this like kind of idea that the family is being like actively destroyed, actually seems to be kind of limited to like petty bourgeois and bourgeois families, and those that are whose material condition is being undermined or jeopardized. So all these people who you see in media, in the academy, in the arts and like news scenes, all of them tend to come from these either and actually even like the type of like petty bourgeois people that Turbo used to talk about, like the Trump supporters in the rural areas. So like I know there's a lot of those guys in Arizona. There's a lot of them who just like like they're from like Phoenix, or actually they're originally from somewhere in like the Midwest. They moved to Phoenix. They have like a small business that they either like own that's managed by somebody else back in the other state, or like that they run here in this state, and they get like 2 or 3 homes. They have like a house up by Prescott, which is like south of Flagstaff, and it's like 3 hours from the Grand Canyon, rather than being like so like Mexico is about 7 or 8 hours from the Grand Canyon, so like it's pretty like close to the northern part of the state. But they get these nice big McMansions up there. So like all these types of people, they're the ones who like their families fall apart because they're each independently wealthy. The kids and the parents and the grandparents, like everybody's independently wealthy from one another.
Exactly.
Yeah, if they aren't independently wealthy, they have these bourgeois moralities that say it's not my duty to help my family become either self-sufficient or to survive on their own, which is very different from like the old moneyed aristocratic values, which were that those are like the family values that in what was it? I think it was in the Communist Manifesto. Karl Marx extolled the progress of capitalism, that it's like gotten rid of the patriarchal family structure and the clan structure. So like I have like very dubious opinions on, or rather I find it very dubious the opinions that the active destruction of the family as some like transhistorical thing exists, and I think there's plenty of reason to say that it just doesn't exist as a thing in itself. It's always going to be contingent on the material conditions in which it's constructed. And if you have a family,
flux.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Bougie families don't need the traditional family structure because they don't need it. So
yeah, but they have to transform. Yeah. Like you're not going to be like in terms of just like their ability to sustain themselves. You can't maintain, once you lose the material comforts of a bourgeois or petty bourgeois economic position, you can't maintain those familial structures, those familial relations. Like you're going to have to depend on people, and you're going to have to be available for people without this transactional relationship that's more common in those independently wealthy families. Right. You're going to be more like what the poor people already are. Like poor people already tend to have to stick with their family for material support.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of poor families with 10 people in one place. Like that's just how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just correlated that way.
3 to 4 generations. Exactly.
What's a weird thing I've been thinking about is the fact that I feel like poverty kills family structures. And obviously if you go higher up in income, family structure dissolves because it's not useful. In poor communities, like family structure is more necessary. You need that tethering, that support. But I feel like there's something about poverty under capitalism that's also destructive to the family structure, despite the need. I haven't really figured out yet, but
well, I think because you're more reliant on it in the power structures and stuff within the family when you are poor or in poverty, it creates a greater capability of those power structures being used. Maybe not being used, not a greater possibility of them being used negatively, but when you're also already poor, that adds a different element into it. And so sometimes there can be more nefarious intentions that are being used, or that are using the family structure kind of to play themselves out. And when you're in a poor community, you're more reliant on those structures. So in that sense, it's a little bit more, I see it breaking it down in that way, and it can be a little bit more sinister on that end. I guess that's kind of just a dialectic there.
The power that an individual that you're describing has access to is concentrated mostly in the family and in their own ability to sell labor. And the reason that they have access to some more power through the collective action or the collected forces of a family is that, first of all, they're able to reproduce and maintain, in sort of a more biological sense, they're able to maintain their existence or their lineage. By having these sort of, what we might call altruistic, although I'm not even sure that's a correct way to think about it. So much as
symbiotic,
necessary, symbiotic relationships, and like it's notable that one of the like biggest motivating factors for people who don't like personally like their family who are in poor conditions to get out of poverty or to get out of the working class, to get independently wealthy, to join the ownership class, is because they don't want to be dependent. They want to be. They don't want to be
get away from
anymore. Yeah, what they want to do. Interestingly, they kind of want to be a parasite on the needs of others to survive. Like they want to be the boss, which I should say I prefer to some degree this sort of moral impulse to this sort of like victimized, like I don't know, like the kind of like right-wing reactionary guys who are like unironically like the family's being destroyed. The liberals are trying to take away the family. They because like
divorce court.
I think that like
they
that,
attribute
right?
too much intention, I think.
That's exactly
exactly.
That's exactly it. Is that like translating this thing into the political realm, making it something to have on the table, as I mean in this case, like in a lot of ways, just like a distraction. I think does like a disservice. Just like as like to make an aside about it, like I to defend my point a bit, because I am kind of making the like pro family arguments and everything. I think that this really is like the clearest example, in my opinion, how I see it, of woke shit basically being like just going down the rabbit hole of just intense individualism, like while the material conditions are further and further isolating all of us, and that right there should be, I mean, balance to be struck. Not to sound like one of these centrist guys or something like that, but that seems to be a reasonable point. Very different than to say there's like a conspiracy of sorts to like degrade the family and all of that. Like, that right there. Well, and it's funny because those positions always lead to the Jews, right? It always ends up leading to the Jews for some reason.
Like everything, right?
Yeah, and I think that should absolutely be like rejected as well, because I think that it approaches it for all the wrong reasons.
I actually think Nietzsche gives an interesting genealogy of that tendency in attributing these things to Jews within Christendom in the gay science. I don't know if you guys want to hear that, if that's interesting to you or not. I just read that like last week, so I was
sure, absolutely.
He talks about, because he's quite a fan of Baruch Spinoza, who's like famously sort of a logician,
right?
And he expounds on the virtue of the Jewish people, the people of the Jewish faith, in sort of imposing through their mastery of logic and facts, like Ben Shapiro, unironically, like he unironically like says the Ben Shapiro thing, like facts and logic. But he says that the ability of the Jewish people for all their history of self-critique and logical analysis of the Torah, and just the economic positions they've happened to fulfill, have sort of become, or at the time in the mid-19th century, had become the masters of logic in Europe, and that he attributed that to their ability to rise within the academies, which had previously been only Christian, and to sort of civilize the Europeans. He talks about it as like the ability of the Jews to use logic and the sort of individual I guess virtue of their like logicians' minds, or their logicians' tradition, was something to which the like sort of grasping anti-Semitism of Germany in his day, and famously of Wagner, who he had been friends with and then distanced himself from over anti-Semitism, that sort of him and his ilk in Germany sort of were protesting with. Like his thing was that they their reason for anti-Semitism was the same as the slave morality of Christianity that Nietzsche hated so much. It was that they felt like they were victims of not being able to provide reasons and argumentation for their societies as they existed, and so that they were victims of the Jews, and that they couldn't provide reasons for why the Jews were outperforming them in their ability to accumulate wealth quickly after being reintegrated into a given city or into a given state again.
I love how aggressive of an explanation that is. Like
cool.
towards anti. That is funny.
Well, no, I mean, he gives this as a foil to the anti-Semitism of the time. Very much Nietzsche was trying to say that, you know, like the Jew, like I think at one point he even says, I couldn't find the page if I tried right now, but at one point he says something about like the Jews actually are the superior race, and he uses a race very much in the way we use ethnicity to talk about like language and religion. So he talks about like the Christian race or the and then he subdivides it into the German and the French race. So he, just so that it's not confused with like current racial discourse in America.
No, of course.
But he I don't know, I think it's cute, and it's I mean, obviously Nietzsche's an individualist, like par excellence. So he's obviously like trying to say that like the Jews are actually quite good because they have these individualist virtues, which, you know, the Europeans learned from and wouldn't have been able to develop, you know, capitalism or industrial society and stuff without. Yeah, I'm sorry that like you mentioning that at least anti-Semitism made me think of that, because I was like, well, there is some precedence historically for it leading to anti-Semitism, like rooted in sort of a material, sure. You know, that material exclusion of the Jews from Christendom.
Oh yeah,
their internal dialectical, like extremely logically and rationally driven subculture.
Yeah, the oldest.
Appreciate the delicate wording there.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like the thing that's important is that
that was like CRK's code switching.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think it's important to note that like this sort of historicization or this genealogy of anti-Semitism is contained within this sort of like it's contained within this anti-slave morality discourse from Nietzsche, and it doesn't make sense on its own. Like the problem is that you have people who take slave or who act on slave morality, take it as valid or good, and sometimes only, you know, opportunistically when it suits them, they take it as valid or good. That, you know, those who are being oppressed are the good ones, in a way that like a lot of white supremacists will be like, oh well, we're actually being oppressed now. There's actually a white genocide. That's why we're the victims. We're the good people, right? Just sort of reacting to a slave morality with another slave morality. You know, I always go into like slave morality discourse. I do that in the replies a lot on Twitter too.
In the grooming chat, in the grooming discourse. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Jews are, I guess, the oldest scapegoat. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
People blame the Jews for Christ's death, even though he himself is a Jew. I guess they blame Christ for his own death. They could say that.
Right. Yeah. It just
like he knew what he was doing in the story of the Gospels. Like he knew what he was getting into. He knew that he was, it was his destiny to be crucified.
He internalized anti-Semitism. Is what that happened. But but yeah, I don't know. I mean, in my mind, like it seems like a lot of because I'm very concerned with getting overlap with the populist right, and a lot of the identifying of the elite as the enemy and the puppet master, they fill that role. They're aware of it, you know, to whatever degree, and they fill that role with the Jews. So there's a part of me that's just like, fuck, like damn, you like. You get what I'm talking about, but I'm not talking about the fucking Jews. I'm not talking about them. You know, I mean, there's some overlap there where it's like I feel like there's some way to like.
But it's all like the degree to which there's overlap is the degree to which, you know, the Jews have just been successful in becoming like overrepresented in that same way I was talking about before, where it's just like it's a matter of like historical. Circumstance or
just like everything, just like white supremacy, just like all this shit is all circumstantial. It's
right.
all
like there's nothing a priori about
that's exactly
it being white versus black. Like it
exactly
could very well have been that like the people, well, maybe not very well, but you know, we can imagine a counterfactual world where redder skinned, like what we would term like American Indian people were populating the continent of Africa, and black skinned people were in and white skinned people were in the Americas, and they had the same, you know, material social relations, but their you know, what their analysis of which race is which.
This shit is
kind of like shifted around.
No.
Different shit to say.
The hoteps, the white hoteps are about to.
Yeah, you're forgetting Yakub. He fits in this whole situation.
The variable in this equation that is not being factored in is melanin.
Ma'at is melanin.
The melanated people, the amount of sun you're getting.
About Ma'at. Ma'at was the life force of the ancient Egyptians, and they knew that life force came from melanin. That's why the pharaohs are depicted as black men. You can see that very clearly here. Have you guys ever seen the Louis Theroux talks to the black Israelites? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and they're like, King George was a black man. Shakespeare? Oh, undoubtedly black, like that stuff.
That's like just so much shit that's like just verifiably false. Like you can just be like, no, that's like actually just not true. Like there's people that were alive at that time that just like wrote it down. That's just not what.
Oh, this is why I made that woke.
Actually, the one that they proliferate like really heavily, that it seems to be like accepted by a lot of white and like European people, is Beethoven.
Oh yeah,
was black, right? Where they're because like there's some description of him where it's like Beethoven was a swarthy man, which was just how like
swarthy. What the fuck?
Yeah, it means like darker skinned, but like that's how the Brits used to, any Americans used to describe Germans. They were like the swarthy Germanic Huns should not be trusted, and that type of stuff.
Well, this is why I made that tweet where I was just like the woke take where it's like, oh yeah, soon the Radlibs will say black people need to go back to Africa, like, you know, sincerely.
Yeah,
I mean, because it's just like this. I mean, we're gonna delve more into the Hotep shit in the next episode, but like, yeah, it's just like this. It's so funny when you realize like how circumstantial like Guns Germ Steel perspective on all this shit is, like the Jews making up a lot of the elite, whatever, by chance, nothing to do with them being Jewish, really, like intrinsically, a priori, as we said, like. You know, that type of stuff, and then to flip that to be like, oh,
their ethnicity.
Yeah.
The only thing it has to do with is their exclusion from. I think I tweeted about that at some point where I was like, oh damn, you're saying the people we excluded from normal social productive relations and relegated only to our like monetary system handling because it was illegal for Christians to handle money as like lenders and borrowers and stuff, like a socially necessary.
They thrived, right?
When we have a monetary system, we need borrowers and lenders. Like you're saying that because we did that now they have a like outsized influence on the borrowing and lending trade.
Right, and you kept them insulated, and they like, you kept them insulated, and
like, it was the Muslims. Like if rather than the Jews, the Muslims had been the like minority religion in Europe, it would have been them doing that.
Yeah, exactly. All this shit is interchangeable. The way you said it, the a priori thing is that's exactly the right way to think of it. It's like they're doing the essentialist shit, obviously, but it's just like. Yeah, it's like, you excluded them and they ended up very insular and they ended up doing well within their own community. Like, oh yeah, what do you think was going to happen?
And importantly, they were fulfilling a role that you essentially delegated to them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You had the huge, like the Roman Catholic Empire essentially saying, you know, it's not going to be legal for people who are Christians to do this job. Oh shit, we need that job done.
Right.
Okay, some of you can come back from the forest. We're going to trust that you won't eat our babies now, and we're not going to put you to death as witches or some shit. And please fulfill this role that we need done, but that our religion will let us do.
Yeah, it's like what you guys said about the intent of desecrating the family thing. Like, there is no intent. There's no grand design. This shit just happened. That's just the way that shit worked out. And
or rather that the intents aren't. Yeah, I think that there is intent, but the intent isn't. You know.
It's not that.
Isn't this like grand design intent. The intent comes from just these necessary like social productive relations.
Right.
Like we need people to fulfill X, Y, and Z, or like, oh shit, we need this role fulfilled so that all of us can survive, or so that our society can survive. Get these people to do this thing. You know, like we need slave labor to produce enough to export from the new, like to make the new world profitable. Like we've killed off all the natives with smallpox on accident and sometimes on purpose. There's cheap slaves from Africa. Go buy them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's funny too to take the flip version of that and be like, actually, we Jews are superior, or we black people are superior, or like that's why it becomes hilarious.
They killed the fake Jews. I saw that one.
Oh god, that was.
Wait, what happened?
Crazy.
That was like a hotel. It was the black Israelites. They were like. They're like Hitler shouldn't kill the Jews, but thank God he didn't kill the real ones. And it was like some black lady, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell?
Yeah, this Hotep versus Zionist beef is just mad funny. It's just hilarious. Like, but yeah, Nick
to go.
Egypt,
1934.
Egypt,
Yeah.
ancient Egypt.
Luis,
Yeah,
or not
true,
Luis
true in
Farrakhan,
Egypt,
but
Burger King.
Fard Muhammad up in Detroit. Wallace Fard Muhammad. He walked door to door with a great word to
See, I can't tell this is
recently
a joke or not.
relocated
It
black
seems
people from
too
the South.
real.
No, this is actually true.
COH took a whole different black pill. He took a whole new sense of
Wait,
black
did you
pill.
actually go deep in the history of this?
I took the melanin pill. Yeah, I took the melanin pill. I'm like seriously in this shit right now.
Mr. Farrakhan.
Go on.
I've like traced the lineage of the full Hotep movement back to like possibly back to the Moorish science or the Moorish temples.
Oh, the Moors.
It seems as though it may have kind of branched out of there because it seems as though the original person who was the teacher to the Prophet Elijah Muhammad, who was Wallace Fard Muhammad in Detroit, he was the one who kind of started what we know now as the Nation of Islam. But it's thought, there's a lot of mystery around this character, his lineage and what he did in his history. But it's thought that he was likely involved with the Moorish until there was some sort of break. And then he decided he was going to go around and sell silk to recently relocated black people from the South up north to try to tell them, A, this silk is from your homeland, so you should buy this. B, by the way, while I'm selling you this, have y'all heard about the fact that y'all are actually the most powerful race on this planet?
Well, yeah,
that's why the white people are trying to keep you down.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, no shit. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was very
It's actually
attractive.
funny. This is actually really funny because this is exactly my experience with my Uber Eats delivery guy yesterday.
What happened?
I know, I'm kidding. That was
He rolled up. He's like, "Here's your food, but also, have you heard about the word?"
He's like, "You're God's chosen people, man." I was like, "I just want my euro."
Wait, so the Hotep stuff is all like tied in with Nation of Islam then?
Well, so Hotep it's kind of like a broad
Yeah.
term for
sure it's, like,
black
ancient.
nationalists.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you've got your Nation of Islam.
Wait, is it,
You've also
is it just
got
like historical revisionist black nationalists or like all black nationalism? Like
That
is it just
I'm
the guys
not
who are like, we actually were too strong and that's why we were enslaved?
I think that's more, yeah.
The white man actually fears melanin and that's why he has to enslave us.
Well, it goes way farther deeper than
That's what I figured. I figured the
It
Hotep
wouldn't even
shit
be
is
that-
like really
it would be
old.
not necessarily that like the white man fears the melanin, but more so that the white man
That's
is
what I heard from Nick Cannon.
deprived of the melanin.
They're envious.
And
They're
so
envious.
therefore,
Oh, okay.
they just
Damn,
don't...
COH really, yo, he's
Yeah, I mean, I'm saving all this really for the next episode when we do the deep
Right,
dive.
right, yeah,
deep
sorry.
dive. No, you're good. But yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of notebooks full of notes here.
COH is wearing he's wearing a kufi right now.
Yeah, dead ass.
Oh, is that like the hat that Nancy Pelosi wore or whatever?
yeah.
Oh my god.
A great sister.
Sister Pelosi.
Yeah, Sister Pelosi.
Damn, that's great.
But yeah, we shouldn't get too much into the TEP
Yeah,
shit.
stuff, yeah,
But
Yeah, no, that's just a quick little teaser.
yeah, oh yeah. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we tip off? Or
I just want to give a quick shout out. Fuck that bitch, Gwen Snyder. Let's get Amy back in this site. Let's go.
facts? Fuck
That's
that.
basically
Yeah,
it.
fuck her. Fuck that. Yo, what was that shit? Oh my god, it was like the honkler shit. The honk is.
She posts the clown green guy
Oh my god.
meme, and that's a fascist meme. So she's got it.
Yeah, and then Amy dropped like that article of like her like giving a false accusation on someone, and she just looks like the false accusation woman. You know what I mean? She just has that like appearance of just like the Karen making the phone call. Like, yeah, that Heil Hitler like crypto shit is just like. I mean, maybe that's true. I have no idea, but what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so. It's such a reach. It's just like such a. But the whole point was you mentioned like the follower count, so it's just like okay, you're being very transparent about why you're doing this or what you actually care about. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just a load of nonsense.
Well, her whole brand is just like stoking leftist infighting. Like that's just all that it is.
Like the
Not
FBI,
just, Gwen.
right? Like the
Yeah,
FBI would,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, she's a little Gestapo. It's like while we were talking, Katy Perry posted a Pepe. Freaking out about that. Yeah, I'm like very excited about that.
It has grown.
I know. Also, number one, as soon as I saw that, top reply in there that I'm seeing.
Drew?
Our boy Drew.
What's he doing? He's sipping?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think that's pretty on the money. I mean, this is all fucking. I mean, it's just years and years of 4chan being like, look, we can just kind of like, like, not even half subtly operate between the lines, and these guys will just spin themselves into knots, and we're just years into that, and it's still working every fucking time, just perfectly. And I'm not saying that like that's the main takeaway from Amy, as if like Gwen Snyder, right?
Yeah.
As if Gwen Snyder herself isn't just like a fucking worm.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, all this like coded shit online, it's just a lot of it. I mean, well, because to be real about it, I know, like,
It's mental illness is what that is, if that's ableist.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? Like some of the stuff, you're like, okay, right? I get it, right? Like the finger loop.
Yeah, the white power sign, the OK sign. Like there's something to that.
But importantly, it's like it's mostly stuff that like becomes that thing.
Exactly.
After like these like liberal
right. After
like,
they freak out about it, yeah,
they take the bait first, and then it becomes, and then
they make it real, yeah.
Then they start using it for real,
exactly.
And that's such a perfect part of it to point out. Again, just like they every time, whatever's expected of liberals in the process of creating this symbol, they just always come in clutch, and they always fall into the trap, line and sinker for every single one. And yeah, like of course the Gwen Snyder thing worked, and like of course like all of us like, what the fuck, like honk is Heil Hitler. What are you
No, I've seen that for a while, but it's like it's mostly
if we're acknowledging that like these symbols and everything, a lot of them are used. One of the things about it is that
importantly they're used in like normies ways.
Exactly, they're used by normies, and they're used by far right fuckheads, and so again, like you need to take a bad faith reading to Amy Therese posting. Because normal people do the hand loop or whatever, the OK sign.
It's like the official like international symbol if like you're in the water like drowning, like it's
drowning in white.
Sorry. If you're in the water and somebody thinks you're drowning, you're supposed to do the OK symbol to let them know. Or like if you're sorry, I said that backwards. Or if like you're diving or whatever. It's like so stupid, and it's like anything with a frog is now Nazi stuff.
Or the idea that it's radicalizing somebody that's seeing that is like, whoa, shit, the Jews.
People. Any further than it's like the Angela Nagel kill on normies thing, just that it's like, oh, they're being fun and like playful, and you people aren't. Like you people need to learn to be playful and like joyful in your if you're going to be trying to propagandize people. People don't like, well, I don't know, maybe people do like because it's kind of popular, all this like stupid woke bullshit.
Well, yeah, I mean, the people I've known in real life who slipped towards the right, it wasn't really because the right made a good pitch. It was more because the left was shunning them.
Fun over there.
Yeah, because the left was shunning them and being like dickheads and assholes, and basically like it made the job of the right so easy. All they had to do was not be shunning and mildly accepting, not even like that much reaching out, not even doing that much outreach. They just had to fill the vacuum, and people just drifted over there because like, oh, you're not shaming me, you're not shunning me. That's good. That's better than the other side. It's like you made the fucking job easy, and the honk, however real that shit is, like that shit isn't radicalizing people. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you want to talk about what's making white supremacy, terrorism go on the rise, it's not fucking the honkler memes. Like this is the fucking shit that drives me fucking insane. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, you see the numbers, you see this shit going up. Like, it's like the people who think that if you get rid of Trump, you'll get rid of white supremacy. Like, are you fucking retarded? Like, what the fuck do you think is causing this shit? Like, this shit is driven by a material thing. Obama caused this shit more than Trump did. If you really want to look at it for what it is, it's like, that shit just drives me insane. It's like, yo, you really fucking think that, like, these dog whistles or whatever is like what's conjuring up the magic of the black magic of bigotry. Like, are you fucking retarded? Like, what
they do the dog whistles because it's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already there.
Function unless it's already there.
These fucking people,
precisely because.
And that's materialism, baby.
And that's materialism, baby.
Yeah, that shit drives me fucking insane. It's just so like backwards. It's just like, yeah, it's completely backwards.
It's not the same magical thinking as we were, griping about that exists on the right.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
Right.
where are your gaps, and then what's the magical goop that you're filling those gaps in?
Right.
Not to get sexual about it.
No, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you find something that's just like, mildly kind of sort of fits the whole, like the Jews on the right or white supremacists, like Nazis on the left.
Yeah, because these half-wits can't understand why the fuck shit is going on the way it is. They have no fuck. They're spinning their wheels, looking around the world around them, have no idea what the fuck is happening to them, why things are getting worse, why their families are getting fucked up. They have no fucking idea. So they have to make up stupid fucking bullshit like, oh, I'm superior because I'm white. I'm superior because I'm African. I have melanin. Stupid fucking bullshit. Oh, they want to take.
Whoa. You gotta remember, ma'at means balance. It means fertility. That's what melanin gives you.
I'm starting to think that CRK took a stroll into a certain mountain range.
Yeah, it's just well, we're already poisoned by being sympathetic to Amy. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, whichever you want to. Yeah, whatever is your explanation for why we're Nazis. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm melanin deficient. That's my excuse. Well, hey, listen, I'm gonna hop off, boys.
Yeah, this is Hobbs. Good looking, man. You came through clutch. This was tight.
Cool. I hope I didn't rant